Episode 3 of Shrinking begins with Jimmy visiting Grace's husband, attempting to persuade him to drop the charges against her, but to no avail. Later, while Jimmy and Brian are with Grace, they learn that the charges against her are being dropped due to her husband's history of assault. However, Grace is downcast, feeling she should be punished for ruining someone's life. Meanwhile, Alice reveals to Paul that she went to see the drunk driver. Paul thinks it's a bad idea, as difficult conversations often don't go as one would hope. He makes her promise not to visit the man again. Meanwhile, Sean's father is surprised to see him managing a food truck, later revealing that he'd always wanted to start a business with Sean. Liz overhears this exchange. Tensions are rising between Jimmy and Gabby. Connor and Summer are dating and seem happy in their new relationship. Summer double-checks with Alice to ensure she's comfortable with the relationship, and Alice reassures her that she is. Jimmy and Brian visit Grace's husband's house to get him to sign the divorce papers and collect Grace's belongings, only to be shocked to find Grace living with him again. Elsewhere, Julie and Paul visit Julie's husband, who is at a nursing home suffering from dementia. Julie appreciates Paul's support, but Paul shares his worries about Julie going through the same difficulties with him, as he has Parkinson's. Julie later asks Gabby to knock some sense into Paul, which she happily does. Brian is still upset with Jimmy for not telling him about his relationship with Gabby. This leads to a hilarious argument about how neither seems to know anything about each other's lives, culminating with Brian slapping Jimmy, simply because Jimmy doubted Brian would do it. Later, Alice disregards her promise and goes to see the drunk driver. The conversation is brief, ending with her screaming at him, confirming that it was indeed a bad idea. Liz, being herself, sells her stake in the truck to Sean's father without consulting him, hoping he'd be pleased. However, Sean is upset, revealing he has a strained relationship with his father and is angered by Liz's unilateral decision. Grace's sister arranges one final session with Jimmy, but Grace is bent on punishing herself for what she did to her husband. Brian intervenes with character statements from Grace's friends, who express their gratitude toward her. Their support encourages Grace to rediscover herself, and she finally moves out of the city to live with her sister. Paul decides to switch neurologists so Julie can focus solely on their relationship without his disease hanging over them. Jimmy visits Brian for a Wednesday dinner, a tradition Brian had with Tia, and uses the time to catch up on Brian's life, helping to rebuild their friendship. Alice returns home, struggling with her encounter with the man who killed her mother. Connor tries to comfort her, but she impulsively kisses him. Connor initially pulls back but, sensing Alice's desperation, he eventually gives in. I love how Shrinking maintains a perfect balance between taking things lightly and humorously addressing difficult topics, while still respecting the seriousness involved. The characters are as flawed as they are lovable, and this episode radiates wholesome storytelling. In this episode, Jimmy and Paul take steps toward character development, while Liz once again finds herself in trouble with her tendency to do what she perceives to be the right thing. Her unilateral decision has now strained her relationship with Sean. At the same time, Alice is also in a tough spot with Liz, as she has complicated her friendship with Summer. The silver lining of the episode is definitely Grace's liberation from her abusive husband, a struggle she's dealt with since last season. Overall, Shrinking's plot and characters remain as vibrant, entertaining, and fresh as ever, and we can't wait for the story to unfold in the coming episodes.